Just checking the framing
How do you say
there.
your last name?
You don't know it, huh?
I guess every other time.
Pepple.
Peppel?
Yeah,
That's not what I would have guessed.
it's pretty German. I
All
think we're
right.
good. First time doing a video podcast.
I'm putting you
I've
on.
only done one audio one,
I'm
actually.
bringing Nate from behind the camera in front.
Yeah, amazing.
Nate Peppel. Do you have a name for your business? Is it just you?
It's just been me.
Okay. So how many podcasts do you think you've produced?
With like episodes.
We'll say shows.
Um, Probably only like 5 or 6.
Okay.
But
We've been doing audio for
Long-
5, 6, 7, 8 years.
oh yeah, probably
Sure.
longer. I mean, I probably started really learning audio when I was in high school or
Okay.
something.
And you're kind of self-taught, right?
Yeah, I learned a lot online a bit too when it came to studio type work.
Which
but,
is self-taught. I mean, you went and
It really
watched
was,
videos
yeah.
and took courses.
but there really aren't super talented, popular audio engineers here.
Sure.
So I kind of relied on the internet for a lot of things growing
Yeah,
up.
that's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's the way people learn these days.
Yeah.
So I want to like rapid fire on what you think are best practices for podcasting.
Okay.
I know you like to start with like the hardware and like the audio because you're kind of an audio geek.
Sure.
What's your favorite mic, or is this the one, or what?
I would say if budget isn't an issue,
Sure.
this is what I'd use. This is a Shure SM7B.
Okay.
It's a pretty broadcast standard mic. They're like 300. I actually think they're like $400. But the problem with these is that they require a little bit of extra gain. So
Okay.
when you buy the mic, you also have to kind of buy this little thing. It's called a FET head,
Okay.
and it basically boosts the signal by 20 dB or something like that.
And that is where?
That's
in this
plugged
bag
into the
over here?
recorder. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like in line with the recorder.
Okay.
Because
I like how minimal it is.
yeah, I've
really
kind of
clean.
gravitated toward this setup, and some people like the boom arm thing. I think that looks pretty nice. I think like the event companies, like one of my first podcast clients that I had, this was kind of the setup that we designed for it, and I've liked it. And I can roll in with a Pelican and a backpack.
Yeah, you had
and,
like a bag and yeah.
it's heavy, but it's compact.
Okay.
So
What as an audio person, what's the most important tip that someone should follow? Is it the room? Is it the microphone? Is it
sure.
like the proximity to the microphone?
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I would say, so you're coming from like headphones world,
Yeah.
and number one, when it comes to placing a microphone on someone, it's proximity.
Yeah.
So like when I'm here, we're probably going to get a better result. I'm backing up just because
Yep.
you're going to be kind of backed up. That's basically your stance in this. But because I'm back, we're introducing more of the room because it requires more signal to make
Okay.
my voice level. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So proximity is really important. Coming in on the mic, no matter what kind of mic you have, obviously you have to adjust accordingly
Yep.
depending on what you're doing. And then the other thing is treating the room as well as you can.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. If you're podcasting at home
Yeah.
and you don't have a studio, most people don't,
Yeah.
where would you recommend go? Smaller room with like sound, bigger room?
I mean, if you're podcasting like audio only, go for the room that sounds tightest.
Okay.
So for some people, that might be their living room just because they have couches, they have bookshelves, which are diffusing the sound. In this room that we're in, it's pretty big. There's a lot of height to it. It doesn't sound nasty though.
Because the opposite of tight would be like bouncy.
Yeah.
Like you can
Direct reflections is
Okay.
really what we're treating if you're like putting some type of like acoustic
Yep.
absorption type material up. So there are workarounds too. Say if you are limited, say you can't be in the living room because you have kids,
Yeah.
or you don't want to mess
Yep.
with family time, you know what I mean? And you don't want to like work in that space. Maybe you want to convert your office. So another thing you could do is put acoustic blankets up around you. You could create a little like booth type thing.
Yeah.
Even in here, if I would have packed more, I'd probably have acoustic blankets outside of frame right now, just to tighten it up that little bit. So it comes off my voice, goes into the blanket. That's the end of it.
Sure. So when a couple times when I've recorded like on a voice memo through my AirPods and sent to you, is that like nails on a chalkboard for you?
No, it's not that bad. I understand the limitations of certain microphones too.
Sure.
What you have going for you there is it's an Apple product. It's tuned really well. The gain is set right. It's doing the best it can for what it is.
Sure.
It's right here relative to your mouth, which is really nice.
Yep.
I think it sounds pretty good, about as good as what you can get for that. Because a lot of mics, say I have a pair of Bose headphones, which I listen to for these types of things.
Yeah.
The microphone on those doesn't sound as good.
Okay.
So I think when it comes to, if you're like a no budget person and you want to just record from a phone, I think, yeah, Apple AirPods, earpods even,
Sure.
it's probably,
Yeah.
it's actually probably a very different microphone.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is like, if as your listening experience gets elevated, then almost you want the recording equipment to also elevate.
There's a big jump.
Yeah.
There's a jump where it goes from phone, and you can go cheap too on recording stuff. You can get way cheaper microphones, which actually can sound pretty good.
It's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can get it done for a few $100s probably. Where you run into limitations is how many guests are you going to have?
Yeah.
I'm prepared for 4 people at a time.
Okay.
Can do more, but I'm prepared for 4 people at a time. Yeah, it's a lot to manage too when someone's just listening.
Sure.
To understand like, okay, that's that person, that person.
Yeah,
that
especially if we don't know the voices. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely hard on a video.
So you do obviously more than podcast audio. Like you do editing and mixing and what? So just do you listen to podcasts casually as like a fan or more so?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't listen to too many podcasts.
Like what would be the things that are big no for you? Like you listen and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't even listen to this.
What would bother me?
From a production standpoint?
Definitely too much room, like really gets bothersome because you're hearing so much of it. There are things you can do to combat that too. Like right now, I understand I'm going to have room in this signal as soon as I go to edit this, but I'm going to put a plugin on that kind of pulls it back right away.
Okay.
So it makes it sound tighter than it already is.
Okay.
So too much room noise, and not just room noise. Like I said, this room sounds nice. It's a good like reverb. It's just a sense of space.
Yeah.
Some rooms are just really nasty where they start introducing the frequency that the room is hitting.
Okay.
And so say my resonant frequency to my voice is interacting with that in a negative way. Pretty soon we have this big build-up chamber thing. That's insanely annoying. It's actually really hard to EQ out too.
Yeah.
So I would say those, like the room interaction is one of the biggest things. Proximity to the mic is important. But then the other thing that gets annoying is sometimes when they record their own podcast, they don't have any compression on it to basically like hold their signal in a place. And the goal to it is not to make it sound like it's being altered by a machine, but it's important that if you're driving down the road, you have a really big noise floor. It's loud.
Okay.
It's insanely loud when you're driving a car down the interstate.
Yeah.
All the wind, the road noise, cars passing, whatever. It's really important that our conversation is like here. So when you set your volume, you can hear it. It's always there. You just set it right in the noise floor. Whereas some people, they'll just be loud and soft, and soft, and you're adjusting your volume.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Constantly. It's really annoying to...
Some of like my daughter's cartoons on Netflix, like, I don't know, like the intro music is just like, and then you gotta turn it down and then you can't hear that. You gotta turn it back up.
Yeah.
That is really annoying.
Well, I mean, it's not even just home-produced podcasts. I watch films and documentaries that's like, man, I wish I was mixing that because I would have done a better job.
Yeah, interesting.
But that's I think those are the big things. Inconsistency in volume, room interaction, those are the big ones. The next level to it would be like really EQing things well.
Okay.
De-essing things. So if someone has a lot of
I don't know what that means.
It's a machine that basically targets, say I'm really sibilant or the S to my voice is really annoying.
Sure.
It's a machine that says, okay, I'm going to look right here.
Yeah.
My S is probably like around...
Say that again, your S?
S, yeah. Like S, to my voice.
Ah, got it.
Yeah. So it's a machine that you can basically say, okay, the S is here, 5,800 hertz is probably about where I'm at.
Now we're getting into it.
That's a male S typically.
Okay.
Some people have more of like a sh thing.
Sure. Yep.
It varies, but basically it says target this. As soon as that goes above this certain volume,
pull it back.
Okay.
Cool.
So it makes it more listenable because sometimes people listen on headphones and it's really annoying to have like in your ears the whole time.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, EQing and de-essing is the next step to it.
De-essing, got it.
De-essing is what we call it.
So several of your clients are also doing video.
Yep.
We're doing video. We're not quite sure yet what we're going to do
I think you should roll with it.
But
I think it's fun.
Tell us about your video setup. We got 2 cameras here.
I've really thought about this a lot. So what do you want? Like super specific?
Yeah, just high level. Well, like what's the hardware in terms of if somebody wants to do a video podcast, or as you like to call it, a vodcast?
Yeah.
We joke about this.
Yeah. I'm using Lumix GH5s. The reason behind that is that you have a ton of options when it comes to resolution. They record like Cinema 4K.
So is that considered like a DSLR
It
camera?
is. It's a mirrorless camera.
Okay.
But they're really compact, as you can tell. No one can tell off camera right now.
Yeah, I know.
Super small camera. It's called Micro Four Thirds system, so the lenses are really tiny too. Like this is what a full frame camera would have for a lens, like a
Yep.
big lens. Whereas that is the same lens. It's just for, this native environment of Micro Four Thirds. Anyway, why I choose the cameras is there's no record limit. Insanely important when you're doing podcasts.
Yeah, not sure where they're going to.
Because where I started was using more like photo style cameras.
Because the memory card fills up.
Yeah, well, they put a limitation on it because I think there's one about that like file splitting, but it's also something regarding it not being licensed as a camcorder, I think. It's something about international trade stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. These are more video tailored, yet they're as small as a normal camera. Yeah, so really good resolution, no limitation as to how long you can record. Truly, you can hot swap cards in them.
Yeah.
There's redundancy too, which I like. So if it's a really important project, I'm recording to 2 cards at a time. Same on my recorder. So when I get done with the shoot, if I want to grab lunch, I pop a card out of everything. I put it in my pocket.
Interesting. Got it.
Yeah. So good cameras, high resolution, good colors.
And how about just as like taking your production hat on as the experience, are you a person who prefers to also watch video? Or do you
I
like
like it. Yeah. I mean, I feel like because I've learned so much on YouTube, there's a lot of connection there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we were talking off camera here about texting versus audio communication.
Yeah.
Video is kind of just like the next layer up.
Yeah.
It's just like the compression keeps going down, as you get to text.
Sure.
It's super compressed. I spit it into this tiny little box.
Yep.
You expand it however you will. There's just a lot of loss there.
Yeah, I think as the marketer in me knows that YouTube is like the second largest search engine. So outside of Google, people go to YouTube to say like, what's the right podcasting mic? And if this video is there, they found you.
If it's going to be the right answer, who knows?
Well, that's an opinion, yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's do light. So if I'm sitting at home recording a podcast, or even like this could apply to just people who are on Zoom calls right now.
Sure, yeah.
Like I've been on tons of Zoom calls with clients, my own team. What's the right way to set up a room so that you look good on a camera?
Sure. So there are a bunch of techniques that you use when setting a camera. I would say if you're going to set up, and it really applies to what we're doing right now too. I would say set yourself up in a spot that frames you well. So make sure you're in a good part of the camera.
It's kind of like the thirds you talked about?
Yeah, we call it thirds. Look it up. It's like the rule of thirds. But getting yourself in this eye line right here where you and I are, where it's comfortable. You see like my lower body. I'm not like in the center of the frame. And it also depends. So right now, like I'm a little bit off to the side. So I'm more on like this side of the frame than this side. But that makes sense because I'm speaking this way.
Yep.
But when it comes to a Zoom call, I would say get yourself in that top third mark, center yourself.
So that means you occupy the bottom 2/3, right? And your eyes kind of hit that.
Yeah, your eyes are on the top third.
Yep.
And for a Zoom call, it's not like you're framing like this.
Yeah.
So you're dead on.
Yep.
A big thing is to get your camera up at eye level. Otherwise, you're like shooting like this or you're shooting like this.
Yeah.
It's like old man or like young girl selfie styles. You know what I mean? So it just looks better being at eye height. So elevate whatever you're using. Could be a phone, could be a laptop, something like that.
Yep.
Get a mount for it. Place it up on some books, whatever.
Yeah.
So now you're framed right. You have
There's probably some ergonomics set too, just so that you're then
totally. It keeps your posture up.
Yeah.
Keeps your posture up. Keeps you from like tilting your head down. Yeah, so I would say those are the first things. When it comes to lighting, you kind of have limitations when it comes to a webcam style thing.
Yeah.
They don't take really harsh light very well. They'll kind of blow it out. So
seems like the biggest mistake is if you have a window behind you.
Yeah, you don't want to compete with that either because you're trying to expose for your face.
Yep.
So it's very intentional. Unless you have enough light power to overpower the sun, don't mess with it. Just try to
make sure. Yeah,
try to keep yourself so something behind you is darker than you.
Yep.
You're the foreground. That's the background.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, that's kind of the video setup. And then for audio, kind of the same principles. Get something that's close in proximity.
Mm-hmm.
Use a pair of headphones instead of your internal microphone on your computer. If your room sounds annoying, try to use something.
Yeah.
Put something next to you. Literally, like hang a blanket.
I haven't asked you. Have you heard of this app called Krisp?
What's that?
KRISP. It might just be Apple only, but it's a plugin that automatically, I don't know, it's probably some of these things you're talking about, automatically like takes out background noise.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's just a plugin that just runs on top of these applications. So I've been trying that.
Wait, so what applications are you using it on?
So you can use it on phone calls with your iPhone, in Zoom.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah,
So-
it's like a noise reduction system.
Yep.
Good for them.
So important question: are you pro Zoom custom background, or do you use or no?
I have no preference on it. I think it's funny. You mean like the stuff that's like
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny for a couple days, and then it everybody kept doing it.
I think
They're
when
like, I'm on the moon, or
Sure.
I'm in the woods.
I think when it comes to anything production related, the goal is to make things not distracting.
Yeah,
That's the reason why
Keep it simple.
we're making the audio better here, because it's less distracting. It's the reason why you frame the video right. So I would say that for some people, it'll be more distracting. And maybe some people, their background is really like distracting already. There's something going on. So maybe they would benefit.
it's like it's like when you sing the national anthem, the best ones are the ones you just forget, right?
What do you mean?
So I always would say that like the best national anthem singers don't make it about, like, they don't stretch it out and make it all about them. You're there for like the game or the event or the concert or the show.
Transparent.
So
Yeah.
you get through it, and then, so the
Yeah,
best audio
agreed.
and video is the ones you don't notice.
Yeah.
It just
That's
happens.
the point, because the point of us here isn't to show off how good your audio is, how good your video is. It's to make people connect on a message level, a soul level,
Perfect.
to your message. Yeah,
Let's end there. That's great. Thanks, Nate.
yeah, of course.